to our free monthly webinar. We've been doing this for 6 years and we're going to keep on going. The goal is to share resources, information as much as we can with you. And we do that through our own knowledge base and expertise, and then bringing in wonderful people like Vicki and Caitlen, who are our guests today. So I am going to start sharing my screen and just give you a few housekeeping items to kick off with. Am I on the correct screen? Hopefully, if I can just get a thumbs
You
up.
are, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right. So most of you know me already. I'm a board source certified consultant and trainer, fundraising executive, CFRE. And I also do a lot of workshops, trainings, and capacity building, as you all know. And we have something special coming up. I had to go ahead and mention this. I know people have to drop off sometimes towards the end, but there's a regional grants conference taking place in August, and that'll be in South Florida. So if you'd like more information, please let me know, or just go ahead and scan the QR code. Love to see you there if you can make it. And just a little reminder what we do at Kannico, 501c filings. I put C deliberately because we do all the C's: reinstatements for revoked entities, strategic planning and implementation, organizational audits and governance reviews, board development, management services, and capacity building. And today we are talking about AI-powered fundraising. I am so excited about this topic, and we couldn't be in better hands, honestly. So I'll give a little bit of a background on Vicki and Caitlen. Vicki Pugh has led fundraising teams that raised millions for organizations including Carnegie Hall, the New York City Opera, the YMCA, and the Community Foundation for Palm Beach and Martin counties. As CEO of Advancement Experts, she helps nonprofits grow stronger and more sustainable through major gifts, capital campaigns, board development, and donor engagement. She serves on the faculty of the fundraising school at the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy and was named AFP Palm Beach County's Outstanding Fundraising Professional. Welcome, Vicki. So happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirsten.
All right. And Caitlen Macias, she is the founder and CEO of BotQueen. She helps nonprofits adopt AI responsibly and strategically. With over a decade in the nonprofit sector, she co-developed the AI-powered fundraising program with Vicki Pugh, equipping development teams to use AI for donor segmentation, giving tier analysis, and smarter prospecting, without losing the human relationships that fundraising depends on. Her work has been featured in Newsweek, CEO Weekly, and the Wall Street Times. A graduate of William & Mary and Columbia University, she serves as an executive fellow at the National Privacy Council. Welcome, Caitlen. So, Vicki and Caitlen, so great to have you with us. I am now going to hand things over to you. And I see we've got Caitlen joining us right now. So Caitlen actually came from I believe, a training session. Is that right, Vicki?
She was doing an AI training session at another organization.
And I'm here. Hello, everyone.
There she is. Welcome.
Hopefully
Caitlen.
I didn't end the other meeting with 45 people on it. I think I didn't. So, hello, everyone. My name is Caitlen Macias. I'm the CEO of BotQueen, and we are on a mission to empower nonprofits to use AI safely and responsibly. And Vicki had texted me we were doing intros, so I just wanted to introduce myself. And thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to share all the amazing material that we have. Hi, Christine. I see some friendly faces. Linda, all my friends are here. So really nice to see everyone.
Thanks for bringing them with you. All right, ladies, I'm going to mute and let you take over.
So we're going to go through really of one module of 4 modules that we've put together to help simplify data organization and analysis. I don't know about you all, but as a fundraising professional throughout my career, I have known that data is really important to inform strategy and decision making. But I'm not sure that I've always had enough time to really dig into the numbers and use that to help me focus on my fundraising planning. It takes a lot of time. Probably many of you are the only development person in your organization, or you're part of a smaller team. So again, there's not a ton of time usually to do that. So we've simplified some things, made it easy through some AI prompts. And at the end of this session, we'll give you time for some questions, but we also will share how you can access some of this really important learning for your own use in your organizations. So we are going to get started. I'll share my screen here. We call this program AI-powered fundraising. Again, what we're going over today is part one of a 4-part series on this technique. You know us now a little bit, and some of you've known us for a while, but this is kind of what I can prove about the data. Some recent study by fundraise.org says that 90% of nonprofits collect data. So we're all collecting good data on our donors, but only about 5% of us are actually using it to make those important planning decisions. Analyzing the data helps us look at trends, calculate where we've been successful, where our challenges are, where our weaknesses, or where our vulnerabilities are, where we're doing really well, and how to use that then to streamline our focus. Instead of focusing on every area, we can focus on specific areas that will drive, hopefully, successful fundraising results in the future. You've all have probably seen this, and I probably should have updated, because we just about a week ago or 2 weeks ago got new information from Giving USA about the source of contributions in the United States. This is from 2024. The 2025 one's updated just a little bit. But if you look at this chart, looking at where all the gifts come from in the United States every year, you can clearly see most are from individuals. Because not only in 2024 did 66% of individuals make up all the giving, in this 2025, it's 64. However, if you look at that foundation number, about half of those donors are individuals. They are heads of family foundations, and those are individuals who give. And this year, about 10% comes from bequests. Those are given by individuals. Those are when a donor makes a gift in his or her will. So most of the giving comes from individuals. So one of my first questions to you all, and this is, you don't have to answer this, but just to think about it, where is the most of your effort put on through your fundraising mechanism? Is it on corporations and foundations, or is it on individuals? And if a large part of your giving comes from corporations and foundations, look at the opportunity you have to raise money from individual donors, right? There could be a whole world of individuals out there. Hopefully you're thinking about this comprehensively, and whatever you learned today might help lead you toward kind of those strategies for targeting the best individuals, as well as some corporations and foundations to give to your organization. Some of you may have seen this before. This is actually from the fundraising school at Indiana University. I do some teaching for them. This is really a snapshot of a full, we call 4-legged stool of fundraising. Do you have an annual fund program? Annual fundraising are gifts that are given year after year after year. We have some strategies to acquire, upgrade, renew donors in our annual fund. Annual funds are kind of the source of future funds. One of my colleagues always says, gifts to annual funds are acorns that grow oak trees, because those annual fund gifts, if we treat them properly, if we pay attention to renewing and upgrading, can eventually become donors that become major gift donors. They could give to a major gift program or campaign. They could also give to a capital campaign down the road, or they could also make a planned gift, which is a gift usually promised now that comes to fruition when a donor passes. So this program is really made to focus on that annual fund giving and to help us think about how we manage this giving pyramid. Again, this is from the fundraising school at Indiana University. They allow us to use some of these slides when we do these presentations. And this looks at kind of that process: acquiring a gift for the first time, renewing that gift for a second time, upgrading that gift for a third gift. Some of you know development really well, that third gift can be really important. A donor who gives a third gift has a much more likelihood of giving a fourth, fifth, and a larger gift than somebody that's given the first time or the second time. And then eventually these donors, hopefully with some strategy, can become a donor that gives a special or a large gift to a campaign and may leave a legacy to your organization through a planned gift. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of at the bottom of the pyramid, but we want you to have the context of how important this work is because it does lead to larger giving to your organization. Our cycle starts with soliciting a first gift, acquiring a donor, repeating that gift, building some strategies to upgrade that gift, and then repeat the process over. So we're continually thinking about a cycle, not just give once and then you never hear from us again until it's time to ask again. Or in a lot of cases, when Caitlen and I have been working with some of our clients together, we see this pattern of give and never give again and never be asked again. Right? There's a lot of organizations that have a lot of great potential donors that they're just not putting in this cycle, concentrating on strategies to ask, upgrade, and repeat.
And Vicky, do you want to share with us the stat? So isn't it if a donor has given, I think 3 times, they are basically locked in for life and they're probably going to give you more funding? You want to share that stat?
Yeah, that's part of that third gift that I mentioned. They have much more likelihood of giving again. But if you give a donor to give to you 5 consecutive years, it's almost guaranteed that they will continue to give to you every time they're asked. So that repetition of giving, really, really important. And this is how we start this analysis and this cycle. There's been a lot of research done through AFP, through the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, at the Lilly School of Philanthropy. Other organizations have done a lot of research on kind of what the ideal makeup of the annual fund is. And this is what it looks like. These are the pyramids that outline that. On the left is representative of donors, number of donors, on the right, dollars. So in a atypical annual fundraising campaign, about 10% of the donors will be giving major gifts, and that will represent about 60% of the money raised. So most organizations are relying on a small number of donors to give a large amount of the money. And that's perfectly fine. If this is what your pyramid looks like, that's great. There are strategies to keep those folks engaged. At the mid-level, sometimes we call that upgraded gifts or mid-level gifts, about 20% of the donors should be giving about 20% of the dollars. Then at that bottom part of these pyramids, about 70% or a large portion of your donors should be giving about 20% of the dollars raised each year through your annual fundraising mechanism. So these are national benchmarks, and what we're going to do today is help you learn how to organize your data into these pyramids and see how you compare to these national averages or benchmarks. And then you can start developing some strategies from that. So Caitlen, you take it away and talk a little bit about how we start the process.
I love it. So, hello everyone. So, one of the things that I get questioned by clients all the time is, everyone's using these third-party models, ChatGPT, Claude, but we don't want to put in information from our donors, right? So we don't want to put in that Mackenzie Scott gave us $10 million last year, although that would be really amazing if she did. And so what we do is we want to de-identify our data. And so we want to delete any sort of like direct identifiers. And again, this is going to be different if you're using an enterprise version, for example, of Copilot, where you're using AI within your ecosystem. So what we recommend is checking with your IT department. Or even you can ask me questions. I can get on the phone with you to make sure that you're using a model where you don't have to de-identify the data. But for this analysis, we're just going to de-identify our data, and we're going to, Vicki, if you can go to the next slide. We're going to structure it accordingly. So we're going to keep the donor ID. So most of you guys probably have a Bloomerang, have a Salesforce, any sort of CRM that you're using. You're able to pull a report with the donor ID. So donor 1001 would be Mackenzie Scott. She's given within the year 2 gifts, a total of $500. That would be the way that you would read this. And so after the analysis, you can go back and refer to your previous Excel sheet that will have the name of the donor, for example, Mackenzie Scott corresponding to 1001. And so this really keeps the information of your donors confidential so that you're not sharing anything with a third-party model. And so this is the structure of the data set. We're about to show you some video recordings that we actually did yesterday for the course that is available now for you to join. And so this is actually the exact structure that we used. So for the client data, obviously it has a lot more cells within it, but this is the exact structure. Vicki, you want to go to the next slide? So now we're going to show you some videos, if you want to pause it first. We're going to show you some videos of how we're actually using prompting and the data set to create these donor pyramids that Vicki had shared. And so what we're doing is really thinking about how can we organize our data within these three tiers, our major, our mid-level, and our baseline. And then we're going to talk you through how we're actually going to use this data to raise more money, basically. You want to play the video? Or do you want to share anything else?
A couple of notes before we start. This is an analysis of your last year data. You could do an analysis of each year data using these same prompts, so you can see how you're doing year after year after year. It's a simple data set. The question we get all the time, should I include organizations in this data set, or should it all just be individuals? And our quintessential answer to that question is, it depends. If you've had a bequest or a singular gift in one year that's pretty large, not repeatable, it may be a good idea not to include that, right, in your data set. If you have a business, maybe it's a family-owned business, or it's a board member that has a business, and they give to you year after year after year, you'll want to include them in this analysis. So you're going to have to determine, which to use. You could do it with and without. You could do this analysis just on individual donors, and then you could do it on your full annual fund data set. So here we go.
The first thing we're going to do is look to see where your major gift or tier 1 threshold lies. We're going to have the AI tool look through your data, and wherever it sees about 60% of the dollars raised, whatever that gift amount is, that's going to be your tier 1 threshold.
Thanks, Vicki. So what we're going to do is below this video, you're going to see the prompt. So I'm going to copy and paste that right here. And here where it says insert year, I'm going to insert the year 2025, since that's the last fiscal year. And then I'm going to plop in the data set. I'm going to drag and drop it. You can also use this plus button right here and insert your files as well.
What?
All right. And then I'm going to send this prompt. So check in a hot minute to see the results.
Here are the results. This organization has 533 donors, about $1.2 million raised. 60% of that, or their tier 1 giving, is around $767,000. The first gift at that 60% level is $10,000. So we will consider that the threshold of giving for tier 1.
So Vicki, tell me a little bit about why would we want to find out where our major donors are, and then what does this tell us, and what are we going to see in the second prompt?
So as we talked about before, we are going to organize your giving data into 3 tiers: a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3. So it's important to look at the tier 1 data first and then develop the other tiers from there. This matches national benchmarking for giving and for organizing data in tiers. The first thing we're going to do is look to see.
Sorry.
So I want to get a show of hands, or maybe people can put in the chat. How many of you also already know what that tier 1 is? Or is this going to be new for you guys? I'd love to kind of hear from everyone. I know we got like 60 people on the call, but if some people can put it in chat. Alex already has that. Okay. New to me. Awesome, Christine. Jennifer O'Brien is a no. New to me, I've heard about it, but don't know how. Now you do. Figured out a couple years ago, but not updated. Okay, so this is a good example of running this prompt with the last fiscal year, right? Maybe you did this in 2023. Maybe you did it during the pandemic while you were at home in your sweatpants. This is a good time to rerun this data. I haven't looked at 60% literally, but I have a comfortable idea where the threshold for top tier gifts lies. Right, so maybe you have an idea, but this would be a really good way for Sarah to confirm that. New to me, new to me. So Vicki, I want to hand it back to you. I think there's a lot of folks that maybe this is new for. I don't know if you want to make any other comments before we move on to prompt two.
I'm going to pop in for 1 second here. I
Sure,
think it's
Kristen, yes.
interesting. Thanks, Caitlin. I think it's interesting that Liz is saying that she had done it before, but that it's a bit outdated. So that's probably a really key piece of this, right? So just making sure that you're staying on top annually because it's potentially going to change.
Right, you should do this every year. This is a yearly thing to do, and you can even check in during the year to see how you're doing against kind of what's happened and what your goals are at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Absolutely. So now that we've determined that first giving level, that top tier giving level, it's 10 for this organization, it's $10,000, represents, at that level, there's 60% and above. We're going to try to figure out the next tiers.
Next, we're going to find both tier 2 and tier 3 using a specific prompt for this purpose.
Thanks, Vicki. So now below, you're going to see prompt number 2. So you're going to copy and paste it. And then we can see that there's 2 places. So right here where it says insert year, I'm going to put 2025. And here where it says major giving level, your major giving level might be different. So the one that we're running for this data is $10,000. I'll put 10,000 right here. And then again, I'm going to put in my data set, drag and drop, and I'm going to press submit.
And here are our results. You can see clearly 3 tiers. Tier 1 is the major gift level at $10,000 and above. Tier 2, that mid-level, is $1,000 to $9,999. And baseline gifts are anything from $1 to up to $1,000. You can see the gift ranges, and then you can see the number of donors in each of those tiers.
So now we're going to go and move on to prompt number 3 in the next video. Also, just want to shout out, so we used Loom for this, and it's the most amazing tool. So, and it also has AI integrated within it, so it makes it really easy to edit videos and things like that. So, definitely really cool. One of the things I'll highlight about this is we did this with a client, and she was just shocked by this. She was telling us that this used to take a consultant weeks, days to put together. And now we're able to run this pretty simply. Yesterday, we ran it in about 30 minutes while filming the videos. So this is kind of a huge quantum leap from where we were. Kristen, you want to make a
You mind
comment?
if I hop in with a question
Yeah,
from
sure.
our audience? Okay. You mentioned that this strategy is based on national benchmarking data. Can you please let us know the sources of this data?
Fundraising Effectiveness Project is one, and that's an initiative through AFP. And if you have any access to the Indiana University Lilly Family School Philanthropy's the fundraising school, they've been doing a lot of work on this. This is in the curriculum.
And okay, so you have fed Claude this information ahead of time, and then you input your de-identified spreadsheet. Is that the way?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Great, thank you.
Awesome.
All right, last module. This is where the magic happens.
The last thing we're going to do in this module is we're going to look at your data, plug it into this tier-based structure, so then you can start seeing where your data stacks up to the national averages, and from that, we'll talk about some strategies you can use to raise more money.
Thanks, Vicki. So now below, you're going to see prompt number 3. So I'm going to copy and paste that right here. And there's a few things that I want to make sure to bring to your attention. So the first is right here, insert year. I'm going to do 2025. And then here that it says giving tiers all 3 levels from prompt 2. So remember, we had $1 to $1,000. Then we had $1,000 to 9999, and then we have $10,000 plus. Really, this should be 999. And then here, we're going to actually ask it to create an infographic. So I want the title to be 2025 Donor and Revenue Pyramids. All right, this is a pretty lengthy prompt here, and I'm going to add my data set just like we did before, and I'm going to click submit. See you in a few seconds.
So this is how this data set broke down based on the 3 levels. On the left, you see a pyramid that shows what percentage of donor is giving at what tier level. So in this case, 6.4% of all donors are in that top tier, tier 1, major gift category, 24.8% at the mid-level, and another 68.9% at the baseline level. If we compare these to national benchmarks, typically about 10% of the donors would be at that top tier, another 20% at the mid-level, and 70% at the baseline. So you can see where this organization compares. Likewise, we look at the dollars. On the right-hand side, that revenue pyramid represents how the data stacks up in those tiers. In the major gift tier, about $817,000 is raised, representing about 63% of the dollars, another 29% of the dollars, or $371,000, and then at the baseline, 7.1% of the dollars, which are about $90,000. If we compare these to national benchmarks, typically in an annual fund campaign, about 60% of the dollars come from the major tier or tier 1, 20% from the mid-level, tier 2, and another 20% from the baseline. So you can see how this organization's data compares to those national averages.
So what you can do from here is you can even go back to Claude, for example, and ask it to create these pyramids using your specific colors, your specific fonts and things like that. And so you can already have an asset that you can download and use in a board meeting or even to discuss with your team. And so in the next video, we're going to be talking about how you can actually use this data and how you can verify it as well. I will say, I know this seems really simple, but Vicki and I spent 6 months working on these prompts, specifically because AI, that's why the prompt is so lengthy. It's because we had to give it exact coordinates to make an equilateral triangle. And so AI is a predictive model, and sometimes it makes mistakes. And so we were getting these like really interesting morphed like pyramids, and we were like, this is not working. So that's one of the things that we refined over time is these prompts to get the right output that we want. And even sometimes, we need to ask some follow-up questions to get to the results. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that just to show you just the value and the work that we put into this tool. Vicki?
So when you do this for your organization, the blanks on the right represent your organization. The charts on the left or the pyramids on the left are the ones we talked about that are kind of the averages to compare to. So if you take your data, you plop it in here, as Caitlen likes to say, you can kind of see where you need to work. If you remember the pyramids we just looked at, about 6.9% of the donors were giving about, a little over, 15, 60% of the money, or no, excuse me, 63% of the money. That organization really depends on a small number of major donors to make up its annual fund campaign. So let's just kind of put this out for a question. If you kind of saw that happening in your organization, which it might, a lot of smaller organizations especially, you have a lot of major donors. That's where you spend most of your time. You might not have a really robust group of mid-level donors or baseline donors. So if that was your organization, kind of what would you do? I think Ewald has a hand up.
Yeah, yes. The national averages that you're showing can those be broken down into organization sizes? Because you're probably mixing in community chest with smaller philanthropy organizations, And so I wonder if the national average data would be different based upon organization size.
Yeah, I think that is a great question. If you want to go to the fundraising project, it's on Fundraising Effectiveness Project. It has its own website, and you can actually, there's some very simple kind of data reports I think that you can get out of there, and there might be some information regarding that. This is average across all organizations. Again, this is material from the Lilly School of Philanthropy's fundraising school. We teach it in every level. We teach it at small, mid, and large level coursework. So if you want to do a little more sleuthing, that's where I would go, Ewald.
Okay, thank you.
That was one.
Sarah,
Would you love to hear the biggest challenge for us is building a robust bottom tier of donors? So maybe you want to talk about that a little bit, Vicki, of how do you build that baseline?
yeah, I think there's some simple things you can do. If you looked at your pyramid and you're very top heavy and you've got, kind of a limited number of baseline donors, you may want to start thinking about doing some things to acquire new donors. Where are the people that would have an affinity to your organization? Where are the people that have some connection? Maybe they have participated in the past. Maybe they've come to a special event. Maybe they are donors of a relatable organization. How do you find those groups, start communicating with them, and then build some strategies to reach out to them when you do your annual fund campaigning? Do you send out email asks? Do you send out snail mail letter asks? Do you have kind of a comprehensive annual campaign that you run a few times during the year to acquire new donors? Those are some things to start thinking about to kind of, again, attract those acorns that build oak trees. What we see all the time is a lot of small nonprofits relying on a small number of major donors, and then they're scared, right? Some of these donors are aging. They've been giving for 10, 12, 15 years. They don't want to be the primary supporter of the organization anymore. They want to see the organization growing new donors. So it's hard to ignore the fact that building this pyramid in some form or fashion is important to the longevity of the fundraising for your organization.
I love it. We were just working with a client actually, and they're an organization who serves veterans, and they do a dental program. So basically, where they take the smiles of these amazing veterans and they're able to do implants, and it's very moving and amazing. And we asked them, had they ever really run a dental campaign? Like these dentists are giving their time and their resources to be able to do these transformations of these smiles. But wouldn't they make amazing monthly donors? Wouldn't they make amazing donors to begin with if they ran a dental campaign? So that was just some of the things that when working with our clients and doing this tool is we're able to brainstorm different ideas that they can come up with. And one of the things that I've worked for several organizations, once you get one of these monthly donors, they stick. They're probably going to be giving month over month for several years. I even looked at the data of a client that I was working with, and they had a donor who's been giving $20 every single month for 5 years. But are they really paying attention to them, right? They don't stand out as a major donor, but they actually have been giving consistently. And that's another thing that we're going to tell you a little bit about that our tool does in our full course is looking at that recency, frequency, and monetary value of folks' gifts. Vicki, back over to you.
Yeah, and I'll just mention one more, and then we can open it up for some discussion. In the middle tier, one of the other things we saw with this particular donor, or excuse me, client that Caitlen was talking about, they're doing really well in the mid-level category. A lot of gifts, a lot of sustainable gifts, good retention rate at that level. And so we talked to them about how to use that to springboard some of those donors potentially into major gift donors. Slicing a piece of it, figuring out who those donors are, and starting to do what I call the 3 C's of major gift development: cards, calls, and coffee, right? Making a call, thanking the donor, getting to know a little bit about them, why they are giving to your organization, what their interests are. And then you can build a cultivation strategy to get to know them better, to plug them into the specific things that they're very interested in, and hopefully build that trust and that relationship over time that leads you to asking for a larger gift. So there's certainly strategies at every level. Those are just a couple. But once you look at your data, then you can pinpoint specific strategies that might help you expand these pyramids, build these out, and eventually it's going to help you raise more money.
I have a question. So aside from the tiers, I would imagine that there are prompts that can be created that track unusual movements and patterns by donors, right? Where they suddenly, and this would be a little more on the individual side, so actually narrowing it down to the handful, maybe, let's say 10 out of your donor base that have suddenly gone from 3 or 4 years ago, just giving $50 a month to really stepping up their gift, or they made 2 years in a row of a $500 gift or $1,000 gift at the end of the year, in addition to their monthly. So I'm sure there are ways to pull out some of these anomalies that you can then work on that, right, a little more deeply and develop and investigate and find out what was it, what prompted them, was there an event, was there an occasion, was it a board member reached out, what is it that has, right, that has stimulated additional support?
Kirsten, thank you so much.
Okay.
That leads to kind of our second thing. Our second module of this AI-powered fundraising program is actually taking your last 5 years of data and then organizing it by giving levels within each of these tiers. So, you might have $1 to $49, $50 to $99. You will have various giving levels or ranges within these tiers. So we can look at those specifically to see move, and we can look over 5 years and see where the movement is. And yes, you can use AI to analyze it. It's always great to say, okay, just tell me what I'm looking at. Tell me where the weaknesses are. Tell me where the strengths are. If you were me as a fundraising professional, kind of how would you use this to direct your strategy? But nothing beats the human eye. For people who've done this many, many times, looking at that data, we can tell pretty easily. And we have, tried and true methods. So I'm going to give you an example, Kirsten, of what you just spoke about. A client we worked with had one particular giving level. It was a $350 giving level that they used as an entry to a little bit more of a benefit with the organization, right? You give it the 350 level, you get a certain access. They've had the same giving level for 10 years. And they realized, hey, we probably should have upgraded this a little bit over time because of the effort we put into it. It's more expensive. We're really building a great pipeline for these folks. So they upped it to $500. And when we ran the data set, it was very clear. There was a group of people that gave last year at $350 that didn't give again, but then there was an uptick in the $500 giving level. So net dollar wise, they were actually raising more because they changed that giving level. But they could look to see which if you lapsed, you gave in this year, you didn't give in this year. Who are those lapsed donors? Let's reach out to them with some specific language on acquisition or getting them back into the fold. It might be a simple letter that does the trick. It might be an invitation to something that does a trick. It might be a 3-question survey monkey you send out to those folks to ask them why they didn't renew, why they're not continuing. Was it too much money now? Did they not value what access it gave? So those are kind of micro strategies within this ecosystem that you can, pull out of here pretty quickly. You use the AI tool, and then that gives you the time to really drill into the data.
So I think the other thing too is that, we're focusing on annual fund, but these prompts can be adopted and adapted to run other kinds of analyses. So one of my friends is the managing partner of a foundation, right? And it would have been great if some of her clients are actually running these analyses and figuring out, hey, this foundation that she runs has given this organization $15,000 consecutively every single year for the last 5 years, but she hasn't received a card, a call, or a coffee, right? And so, and so thinking about within your portfolio, whether they're donors or whether they're foundations that are giving to you, are you paying attention to those individuals, groups or foundations or even corporate sponsors that are giving to you every single year? How can you upgrade their gift? How can you engage them and maybe invite my friend to an event, right? And so she tells me, I really value the organizations that do those cards, calls, and coffee and that reach out to me and that want to have a personal relationship to me, right? Philanthropy is about building relationships, right? And so this is about using AI to actually help you build relationships, not about replacing the relationships that you have. So I just want to really highlight that point. And I see Kristen nodding her head. So just wanted to kind of give that example that you can run these kinds of analyses with other kinds of data that you might have in your portfolio. Vicki, back to you.
It's almost limitless what you can do, right?
It's limitless.
These
Like
are some
this. I'm on the moon.
these are just some basic things that we look at in fundraising to kind of get you started. And then from there, you can develop your own prompts. You can develop more prompts for analysis. But again, don't forget the humanness of this. You got to have a human involved, especially if you've had some people with experience or access to people with some experience to help you verify what you're getting out of AI.
So I do want to highlight one thing. So one of the things that I just was doing a training on this. So AI hallucinates. How many of you guys know what a hallucination is? So a hallucination basically means that AI is producing and giving you what it sounds like it's correct, but it's not, right? So there's a big case where Deloitte, and many of you guys know Deloitte, actually published a report and sent it out, and it had hallucinated these citations, right? So they weren't real, and they got in huge legal, terrible trouble, right? And so you want to make sure that you're cross-referencing it. So I'll give you some examples of how you can do this with this tool. So number one, going back and looking at your totals, right? So if the AI tool is telling you that your, total for the year was $2 million and then your spreadsheet says $3 million, obviously there's something wrong, right? Going back and cross-referencing. The second thing is running this analysis in multiple AI tools or running it multiple times. So you can use ChatGPT and then compare it and run it through Claude, right? So you're checking whether you're checking the LLM against another LLM. So that's another like best practice. Some other ways that you can check it is going back and actually looking at that donor ID and cross-referencing it back to the person. Did that person actually give $10,000? Is that represented in the data that it's showing me, right? So again, humans hallucinate. I hallucinate all the time. My boyfriend will be like, "Remember I told you this?" And I say, like, "No, I don't remember." He says he's told me that story 3 times. So again, AI is very similar to humans. It's actually not a magical wizard that's behind it. It's a prediction model, right? So when it doesn't know information, it will produce and give you something that it thinks it's correct, right? So it's really important to be kind of cross-referencing and going back to your data and running it a few times before you send this analysis out to your board. Again, this is a tool. It's not to replace your human judgment and your amazing fundraising expertise that I know all of you have. So again, we are not liable necessarily for any sort of inaccurate information that comes out from these prompts. The other thing is the reason why we created these prompts and why they're so lengthy is because the more specific your prompt is, the less likely the AI tool is to hallucinate. The other thing is that you see us create a new chat every time. And the reason for that is because the AI has to read everything from the chat to actually produce the output. And so if you start a new chat, again, less likelihood of hallucination because it only has to read the information that you put in, like the prompt in the data set. It doesn't have to read 5 data sets that you put in before and 5 more prompts. So again, I just kind of wanted to highlight before we get into more discussion, some best practices and ways that you can not eliminate hallucinations, but you can prevent hallucinations and incorrect and false information from surfacing when using AI. Back to you, Vicki.
All right, any other questions? Any other questions?
Does anyone want to tell us how you might use these prompts or if you're going to use them? I might pick on some y'all.
No, I'm definitely going to give it a try, because we can get the data pretty easily out of our Bloomerang. And then we do use both ChatGPT and Claude. So, we've got all of the tools that we need. It's just a matter of doing it. And I think for us, half of the challenge is always writing the prompt well. So this is super helpful for us because you guys did the hard part.
Yeah, and just to add on to Christine's comment about the usage of the data. So extraction is the one thing, but anyone who's joined these webinars more than a few times knows that we talk constantly about that human connection, about just getting it on your calendar, There is no substitute for you making the calls. There's no substitute for you getting together with people. But it's so hard sometimes when you're fitting it in and you sit there and you go, well, oh gosh, who am I going to call? Who do I call first? Well, I know that, and you just go with what pops in your mind. But if you have printed something out, well, you don't have to print it, but if you've actually made a list and you've sorted it and you've made some decisions about what your outreach is going to look like, you can just whip through those like nobody's business, right? And so you're like, oh, this was my 2 hour block Friday morning that I was supposed to be making my calls. Great. Where's my list? Okay, fantastic. Let me pull that up. I'm going to start knocking out my phone calls. So it really also is just such a great way to implement the tasks that you were already going to do, but sometimes you just get too buried in your own busy schedules. But now you have a little bit of a roadmap, which is fantastic. And I don't know what the complexities are as far as now we're really getting crazy, but if there are notes in let's say you've run your search and you've come up with your top 10 people that you should be calling this week or this month, going back and maybe including some of the notes from your bloomerang so that you've got something you can talk about and it gets included in the output. And then you can say, oh, John, you mentioned your daughter was getting married last month. How did that go? Was it fabulous? Was the wedding amazing? Do you have a picture you can share with me? I mean, all of those things are so important.
And Kirsten, a lot of CRMs now are coming with an AI tool where you can do just that. You can do some really specific searches, like who should I be concentrating on this week, this month, who gave last year about this time that I need to be reaching out to. And yeah, you can search the notes. Give me a few little profile on what we talked about. Just makes life super easy. Well,
And Bloomerang actually now partnered with Dataro. I don't know if you guys saw that announcement, but Bloomerang is actually going to have AI integrated within the platform. So I think you have to pay for another additional upgrade or something, but they rolled that out a few weeks ago, which is going to be really great to be able to have insights about your donors directly in your CRM. Yes, that's what Bloomerang has sold to us. Love it. Vicki, are you going to bring back the slides for our last few? Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's cover the last few and then sign off from here. This is what our other AI-powered strategies will do. We're developing coursework on each one of these things that you can access online. We're making it super low cost so that you can do this, you can afford it. So in addition to what we just talked about, looking at your donor pyramids and looking at some strategies within each of those levels, we have a module on 5-year giving results. I just talked about that when Kirsten asked her question. So you can look at, what you're raising every year from how many donors and look at where the ups and downs are over 5 years and either plug the gaps or really capitalize on the opportunities. One thing we see all the time is this idea of people getting goals given to them, fundraising professionals, a goal, we've got a budget gap, the expenses are going to outweigh the revenue. So here's your goal, fundraisers. You're going to have to raise this much more. Caitlen and I worked with a client. They raise about $2 million a year. The board had a little separate meeting, the executive committee. They came back to them and said, okay, you're going to need to raise $1 million more next year. And they're like, are you kidding me? With what? No more resources, right? Nothing else extra. So we have some ways to do some realistic forecasting and goal setting so you actually can use your data to look at how much you think you could raise and try to maybe you set an internal and an external goal, one being a little bit more aggressive to give you a little stretch. The segmenting and personalization, like looking at those specific donor levels, looking at how you might segment out and personalize approaches to them. We have a system for doing that major donor prioritization. Caitlen talked about that RFM scoring. That's something we've used in fundraising for years and years and years. And it's not complex, but it takes a lot of time. We have some prompts that help you to do it in 5 minutes. And then you'll see some fundraising and some fundraising strategy woven into all of these modules that will help you again with your fundraising. So we don't have much time, so I'm going to skip this slide. And Caitlen, you want to talk about accessing this course today?
Sure. So I haven't slept in 3 days because I'm crazy and I decided to put together this course for you guys for this call. So if you scan the QR code, and I'll also put the link in the chat, you'll get all the videos that we did today, as well as a probably almost 10-minute long video of us explaining how you can actually use this tool. And then there's a specific 2 videos on how to set up your Claude. So one of the things that you want to make sure is that you don't have model training on. You don't want AI to be training on any kind of data that you're putting in. So in this mini course that we put together for today, it has some videos about how to set that up. It also has all of the slides essentially that we covered today, the donor pyramids as well. And so we actually have a special code. You can use summer 15 at checkout for 15% off. The reason why we decided not to make this into a guide is because we wanted folks to be able to look back at the videos to be able to do this effectively. So if you're new to AI, if you haven't really used this, this is really going to walk you step by step. It's also going to show you how you can pull that data and how to organize it, right? Remember, we had shown you want to keep the donor idea, you want to keep the gift amount and how many gifts that donor gave in that particular year. So I'm going to put the link in the chat for everyone. And then we can also send that probably as a follow-up as well to what we did today. And then we will be launching the full course, so module 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can look on the website that I put in the chat. We'll be launching that on August 1st. So we actually have a wait list, and I'll put in the chat our wait list. And really, like Vicki said, this is a pretty robust set of prompts. There's probably about 9 prompts that you're going to get. And then each of the videos comes with the exact prompt that you can use. And we're really excited to be able to release this. I think that this is kind of like the first of its kind. We're kind of pioneering this. And so if you end up taking the course, we'd also love to hear your feedback as well. Vicki, you want to keep that slide up for a minute so people can fill that out? And then one of the things too that we've heard from clients is, what's next, right? So what we're hoping to build out is we already built out a wealth screening prompt. So many of you have probably used expensive wealth screening tools, Donor Atlas, Kindsight. And so we've actually built a pretty lengthy, it's like almost a page long prompt. It's not included in this course, but we're hoping to be able to debut that and then do more coursework on how to actually do personalized donor communications, right? So once you have your tiers, once you have your segments, how can you use a tool like Claude, for example, to create messaging for those specific tiers or those specific constituents? And so we're working hard. I know I am. I texted Vicki yesterday, 10 p.m. I was like, the course, she's done. She's a beauty. And so really like this is my heart and soul. This is my passion. And I'm also really happy to be a full-time entrepreneur now running this business. So really appreciate everyone's support and all of you guys that have been with me since the beginning. I know I have a lot of you. So we'll open it up for questions and hand it over to you, Kristen.
Thank you. Great, Vicki and Caitlen. Thank you so much. So, a couple things. There are going to be folks that are going to try and just create their own prompts because that's what people do. And if they've got some experience with Claude or with AI, I encourage people to do that and test it out. Any words of caution if someone were to go and try and create their own prompts, aside from not using a training model, which I'm 100% in favor of not using the training version.
So huge proponent. What I always do is let's say that you want to, for example, run an analysis on your foundations, right, that you have. You can, and again, articulate it as best as you can. You can ask AI, act as a prompt engineer. I'm trying to create a prompt to help me achieve X goal. Can you take the prompt that I currently have and the goals that I have and develop something that will help me? And then ask me questions to help me refine the prompt and refine the goal that I have. So that's kind of a framework that I like to use. Act as a prompt engineer, ask me questions, interview me, ask me what my goal is to be able to get to, the result. And then again, like once you have that first output, you can continue to ask it to refine it, right? So it's a conversation that you end up having with any of these models that you're using.
Excellent. What about using a paid version of Claude versus a paid version of ChatGPT? Is one more effective specifically for this analysis? What are your thoughts? Or do you bounce back
So
and forth?
So I actually really prefer Claude. We actually were running this and ChatGPT kept having some errors within the analysis. And so again, it fluctuates because now they just released GPT model 5.6, so that's supposed to be a lot better. Again, if you want to use multiple of these tools, you can. Just our preference and what we stuck to for this tool is currently Claude. But again, you can also run this in Copilot. A lot of you probably have
Mm,
Copilot within your ecosystem. That's also safer, especially if you have the enterprise version of Copilot and you have it configured properly. So definitely, this is not supposed to just be run in Claude. Really pick your model. Grok,
okay.
I don't know who's using Grok, but go ahead and do it in Grok.
Okay. I was going to ask that too. If the prompts are specifically, I mean, I don't know enough about this, but whether they're very specific to Claude
No,
exclusively.
they're transferable.
Okay.
The only thing I will say is we really loved how, you remember in the third prompt, the infographic, we really loved the way that Claude put that together.
Mm,
But again, like ChatGPT is great at image generation, so if you wanted to create a picture specifically with
hmm.
that, you could. Um, does anybody else have questions other than Kristen? You can feel
Yeah,
free to
sorry.
unmute yourself. Eduardo, you were very facially vocal, and I was appreciative of your
Very
participation. Anyone
impressive.
else?
Thank you. This is all new to me. I'd love to be younger so I can really, I love AI,
Mhm.
truthfully. I became an administrator of someone who passed away. And in relating my experience with an attorney, I go to AI, how can I format a letter to this attorney to ensure that she does A, B, C, D? And I tell you, within 2 seconds, I am floored. I would have never in my life put together such a beautiful letter. And it gets results. So I can't wait to try it. I wish more board members from
Mhm.
my organization would have really made it to today's. And I'm glad we're getting a recording because I'd love to be able to spend an hour with everyone saying,
Mhm.
we've got to do this.
Mhm.
The 249 prize is a giveaway.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you for that. And I just can't wait to share all this incredible information with my board members.
Thank you, Eduardo.
No,
Hey, so good
you
to have
guys
you.
are the best. Thank you so, so, so much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Eduardo, my advice, find somebody much younger than you, like Caitlin, and she'll make your AI world soar.
I know. Vicky was like, "What?" So I actually built this course all by myself, like on Wix. So like, there's so many, and Wix has AI integrated within it. There's so many new tools, and I love working with folks from other ages because Vicky is a wealth of knowledge. I tell her, like, her brain, like, I'm
Mm,
obsessed. So
mm.
how can we leverage the knowledge of experts and bring it into this new age of AI? I think that's really what my mission is, and so grateful for Vicky for our partnership.
That's
Love you, Kate.
beautiful. If you guys ever need an assistant,
We're
bilingual,
calling you Eduardo.
Um,
Well, thank you, Eduardo.
Yes.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much, Vicki
everybody.
and
Great
Caitlin.
to be here.
The contact information is in the chat. So thank you again very, very much for your knowledge and expertise, Vicki and Caitlin. We will have the recording available. We're starting to move those over to YouTube, so it should be up on YouTube in a day or two. And of course, we encourage you to experiment, just do it safely and wisely, and keep in mind that you may get some hallucinations here and there. So some safeguarding and a little research on how to avoid that is always a good idea. And then just as we wrap up here, just a reminder that our upcoming webinar next month is August 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern. And our guest speaker is Jackie McLaughlin, and she's going to be talking about the mid-year financial check-in, budget to actual review. So if you haven't raised as much money as you'd hoped, if you've had bigger expenses, what to do, how do you course correct at this point? And how do you really interpret and understand your budget to actual reviews, which now Caitlen and Vicki, you've got me thinking. One of my questions was going to be, and I thought, no, I'm hogging all questions. One of my questions was going to be, what else can we analyze? So yeah, so this could be an interesting one, your budget to actual in the different areas of your financials. So anyway, that's coming up for next month. And again, thank you so much for being with us. And let me go back to, so that's Vicki's email address, Caitlen. We went ahead and put your address, your email address on there.
Thank you.
All right, so if anybody
Thank you,
needs that.
Kirsten.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. And like, feel free, like, please email us. Like, we'll answer your questions. We're very friendly. And we're happy to meet with you also to discuss anything. Really appreciate the time today and go out and use AI.
That's
AI
right.
engage.
Use it, play with it, test it. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
y'all.
We promise. Bye,
Have a
guys.
great
Thank you
rest of the
so,
day.
so
Good to have
much.
you with us. Thank you.
Ciao.
Have a great day,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
So.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Thank you.